Boom-ba-doom.
Happy Friday. Friday evening.
Oh yeah, we don't have to work tomorrow.
Woo,
What's up, Web Queen?
Good Friday. Isn't every Friday a Good Friday? Lowercase g.
Soft G.
Jude Friday.
Oh man, it feels like it's been a wild week.
I feel like we say that every week.
I know. It's never like bun and cheese in the house. What?
I don't think that's how that works, Paul, but I don't know enough to dispute it.
Where we dropping? Thomas, we haven't played Warzone together. We would drop at Best Buy next
Bun
to
and cheese?
the Superstore.
I need to know more about bun and cheese.
That's easy. It's easy to do that, Paul, though, because so many people interpret them stories so many different ways. My computer's drunk. Greg just texted me and it said maybe Greg Shear. I'm like, or Shire. I'm like, what do you mean?
Maybe.
You should
Maybe. Is this like a? Is he a clone?
I don't know. And
Kind
then
of situation where his body is actually in a freezer somewhere, and this is like a new improved Greg.
I tried to start playing music on Apple Music, and it made me reauthorize for some reason, just out of the blue. Well, actually, I had to quit Apple Music and restart it. I pushed play, and just nothing happened. No audio came out. I quit, restart it, and then it asked me to authenticate. So
you hit your 5-device limit.
No, I didn't have to unauthorize anything else. So
it's so funny that limit's been there since the days of the first iPod, like, or really I guess the Apple Music Store, but not the first iPod. Easter bun. This is morbid. An original Jamaican product. It looks like meatloaf. This looks like meatloaf. Is it bread or is it meat?
I do.
Is it made of bunnies? Can you get it at other times of the year? I have so many questions. Easter bun.
A yearly ritual, right?
Maybe it's a bread product or like a cake. And where does cheese work into this?
Hey, side note, if anybody else has AirPod Pros out there, I got these, I think, what are they called? I can find a link at some point, but I got these memory foam tips for them. They're just black, and they work super, super well.
Dude, I cannot get them to stay in my ears at all. The regular ones. I've tried all the sizes. I've tried the fit test.
I tried all the sizes. I was mostly using these hooks that go like in the inside of your ear, but then you can't close the top. So I'd walk around and my AirPods would try to connect to people's phones all day. Yeah, but the Comply, I think they're called, memory foam tips for the AirPods, they work super well. They don't fall out. They don't feel like they're about to fall out. And the noise isolation works really well. So
post a link in the Discord.
Super worth buying.
Yeah, Paul, resetting the device list in Apple Music. That's funny.
Oh, and they actually they're made for the AirPods Pro, so they snap onto the headphone just like the other.
Yeah, that's ideal. Yeah.
Yeah.
I probably should have spent some time trying to find that, but they're like the Easter version of Christmas fruitcake.
I could have cleaned that URL up a little bit. Yes, those ones, Webqueen.
Comply?
I don't know, but they made a huge difference. Wow. I use my AirPods way more now.
Awesome. Good to know. Like they literally fell out of my ear the other day when I was wearing them.
Yeah. I hardly ever used them before.
Cool.
I use them a lot.
Cool.
Except my work laptop, every morning I have to restart it. Otherwise, I just can't get Bluetooth to work. And if I turn Bluetooth off, it won't turn back on. I have to restart the computer, so that's fun.
So Matt, you joke about that. Matt says memory foam headphones make me think of those mouth guards where you boil them to form them to your mouth. that's actually how most professional in-ear monitors work, right? Did you have those, Sean, when you were
I did,
performing? Yeah, so like, I don't think you boil them, but there's some kind of mold where you mold the inside of your ear and then you send it off to a company and they actually make the tips custom fit for your ears, so they provide like a perfect seal for when you're performing.
I had to go to some doctor and they put like this wax stuff in my ear and I had to lay on my side, and then they make you open and close your mouth a bunch of times, and then they pull it out like Shrek, and then you get headphones in the mail.
Like the Shrek candle?
Yeah. Yep. I had them. I still have them somewhere. They don't fit as well, but the earpieces work great. It's just the cord has kind of like frayed. Like I need to get like a new replacement cord for it. Yeah,
not
they
that
poured
kind
like
of
latex in my ear.
Not that kind of mold.
Yeah.
Is this the T200s? Is this actually Terminator?
They worked really good though.
Only 4.3 stars, Sean. Garbage.
Even for shows where we didn't have like actual in-ear monitor sound, I would use them to block like as earplugs, because they would reduce the sound level enough to where it wouldn't hurt my ear, but I could still hear everything.
Sure.
Much better than earplugs. So
it's not them. It's the same brand though. All right.
Yeah, I just linked to their site, but I don't know. They work super well.
Okay, thanks.
I can even work out with them now without like having to put a hook on them, and they don't fall out.
It was a funny story about that. What's it called? In the settings screen on the phone, you can run the fit test, right, to see if the AirPod Pros are sealing, right? And it uses the speaker and the microphone at the same time to make sure that no sound is leaking out, right? Mm-hmm. And listen to it over and over and over and over again. And then I started listening to Tycho, and I was like, oh, this is Tycho. It's just a little clip from one of their songs.
Right. The song Awake.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The one that's like I've heard of a million times because it always used to play at Octopus like every morning is the first record they put on.
Yep.
Yep. That one.
Yep. Sounded like L1011 when you did it, but same vibe.
We took like it was basically a work trip at that point when we went to see Tycho live in Santa Cruz.
Is it just like one guy? I'm picturing just like one guy with just like...
No, full band, full drum kit, full guitar. Like, yeah, it's pretty cool. They're better live with acoustic instruments, but...
Should I get this? I should order this right now. This is a business expense, right? Because we're talking about it on the show. Is that how that works? I could do a review next week, and then I could write it off.
Product review, yeah, I like them.
You can't just write it off.
I mean, while we're doing business expenses, I might as well talk about these Keylight Airs and.
Oh yeah, so you got another Keylight over there.
Yeah. So now the green screen doesn't show behind my shoulder. Like, which shoulder is it? I can't tell. This one. Yeah, this one. I ordered the size pack Web Queen that came with small, medium, and large, and I use the mediums most.
Yeah, I think I'm just gonna get the.
So I think if you use the mediums for the normal AirPod Pro tips, then I would probably just get the medium foam tips.
They all work equally bad for me, so I don't actually know.
So these ones, you squeeze them and then you put them in your ear, and then it just kind of like expands.
Yeah.
It works really, really well.
Buy now. Oh, sign in. Don't you know me, Amazon? Oh, we're friends.
Buy now. Make pod now.
Shipping address, payment method. Ordered. Okay, thanks.
How cookies are set in the browser today. Why can't I work on code that makes me learn more interesting things? That's a pretty valuable thing to know, though.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that a lot of people write successful web apps and don't know how cookies work. Mm-hmm. That's perfectly okay, but it's also nice to know how cookies work. Oh my God, Jess made Sausalito cookies from scratch. I've been slowly devouring them. So good. So good, Sean. The best kind of cookies are the ones you can eat with macadamia nuts and white chocolate.
Oh, Anthony is mentioning Cloudflare Workers and stuff. That's really, I would be interested in learning more about those for topic suggestions. That is, I saw that Cloudflare released some sort of framework for building out apps on top of the workers and things. I forget what it was called, but seems pretty interesting.
All right, but for real, do we have any topics on here besides this one bullet point that I have?
I'm sure I'll just say the T word and then chat will go off and then we'll have topics.
The TS word?
Yeah.
Paul, I know them as Sausalito because that's the Pepperidge Farm. I think it's Pepperidge Farm. That's the brand name, like, for how they make them.
Anthony, I'm pretty sure I saw like an announcement from Cloudflare, though, specifically.
Sean, we could talk about how your app's going, because it sounds like you make some progress on there. If there's anything new there,
yeah, I could do that.
Talk about some of the secure storage stuff. I don't know if you looked at that at all or what.
Not yet, but I wanted to mention that it looks like Rails, the next version of Rails, is getting encryption utils built into it.
Like 7? Are we talking Rails 7 now?
Well, I posted a merged MR in the links channel today.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it adds encryption to Activerecord. You just slap an attribute on a model and it's encrypted or something. Encrypts some symbol. Encrypts email address. Deterministic true. Porting my app to Go. So I would like to dip into Go again at some point. But I think that React Native is more important for me currently, given that it's almost certain that I'll be on a React Native project at some point this year. So I'd rather have that under my belt a little bit more, and feel comfortable with that kind of tooling. And Paul's working on some boilerplate stuff. It'd be really cool to contribute to that a little bit as well. So that's probably going to be my next focus.
Sweet.
Elm. See, I've never really been that interested in Elm. I like it. It seems like interesting, but I've not been compelled to try it.
It was, yeah. I haven't really heard anything from Elm stuff since, I don't know, we went to ElixirConf and people were really hyped about it, and then I haven't heard nothing about it since. No reason for Elm anymore. Just write an actual functional language compiled to WebAssembly. I mean, that might be true. Like maybe Elm came out exactly the wrong time, and it might be tongue in cheek, but I'm not sure. Thomas liked his own question about successes and failures. Oh, I see what you're saying, Anthony. Yeah. There's the T word. I see the T word coming in the show notes, guys. Buckle up.
That's a different T word.
It has
Typesaurus.
Yeah, it has the word. Is this not related to TypeScript?
We gotta get Anthony back on. I mean, it is, but we gotta get Anthony back on too, so he can tell me what the heck a durable object is.
Durable.
Yeah.
Instead of being garbage collected, it's just garbage recycled. Or
wait,
collected?
Didn't Dino do like a thing over the last couple of weeks? They like made a company or an org or something. Yeah, they raised. That's right.
They got a cool VC.
And they have a company now, because I saw people criticizing that on Twitter where they're like, why can't you just have like a controlling body that's just open source and not incorporated or anything like that? So
why not? Por qué no los dos? Like,
I don't know. I mean, people are gonna yell at it regardless, right? It's just.
What about Ubuntu and Canonical? Like, you gonna crap on that too? No, that's a pretty successful model.
I'd play around with Dino a little bit. That'd be fun. They're a type safe corporation. That's right.
All right, we're going on 9:20 here, man.
Oh yeah, we can
Get
we
this
can get
going.
it moving. Sorry. I'm awake for some reason. It may have to do with the Starbucks I just drank. Normally I'm zombified.
I'm here to balance you out then, because I just woke up from a nap.
All right, I pushed the button.
Still trying to find the session on this god-awful audio hijack screen. Does not compute. At least it's alphabetical.
We're working on it.
All right, we're live. I'm recording. I think I'm clapping this week. Is that a reference to something? Make pod now? Or is this just... It's just what we're... the level of production that we're at now. All right. There we go. It's awesome.
Going.
Need to get some royalty-free synth wave in the background there.
Oh, it's on. You just can't hear it.
Okay.
Oh, my CPU. Hold on. Let me fix this.
Rip. Didn't like that, huh?
Oh, well, we'll hang out on the holodeck for a while.
Okay. Ready?
Yeah. Who's clapping?
I am.
Okay.
We've decided. Ready? A 1, 2, 3.
Ooh, Sapali Nougat is here. Welcome.
Oh no. It's over. Game over, boys. Game over. No pressure.
She's on to what you're doing Thursday nights now.
Everything was going fine.
Yeah.
It's my pod and I want it now. Apply podcast directly to the forehead.
Well, it's Thursday, and normally I'm zapped by Thursday evening, but I'm feeling pretty good today.
Could it have been the Starbucks that you just had?
Yeah, I just housed some caffeine. But that normally doesn't do this to me, so I don't know. I have tomorrow off, so maybe I'm looking forward to that, giving me energy. And I'm planning on doing a little bit of a hack sesh tonight with Paul Straw.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. Not working on the same thing, but just helping motivate each other.
Cool. I like it.
Yeah.
Last time I tried to have a hack session in person with someone in college, it ended up with me spilling a stout all over my MacBook Pro keyboard. And that was the end of that hack session. It did survive, but
that sucks.
It was a little sticky and smelled like beer for a few months.
That's a bummer.
We were trying to make a what was it? We were trying to make some kind of secure file sharing protocol for use within the college LAN with like chat. Basically, we're trying to recreate DC++ or some kind of like, internal VPN or like LAN file sharing thing. Mm-hmm. that the IT department couldn't see. We didn't get very far.
So I didn't do anything that cool. But I remember when I was working in my first cubicle job, actually my first and only cubicle job, we would find ways to use like Facebook. And if I remember correctly, there was a site or some plugin maybe that you installed, and it made Facebook's UI look like Excel from a distance, or like spreadsheets or like like Word or something.
Some kind of grease monkey user script or something.
Yeah. So we did that, and then our cubicles were like, there was like a cubicle, and then there's a half wall in the middle, so there was two people to a cubicle, and the person that I sat with was also a musician, and so we positioned our mirror. I'm not sure if I told this story before on the podcast.
I don't think so. No, I don't remember this.
We used to position a mirror on his side of the cubicle so we could see the direction our boss would come from. And so we would do enough work to not get fired, and then we would like work on memorizing and quizzing each other with our like scales and chords and music theory.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love that.
I was a bad employee back then. It's wild though. I don't know if I've ever described what that job was. So
this does not ring a bell at all.
Yeah. So I probably have mentioned that I had a factory job for a while, and I used to run a Heidelberg press, like a printing press. And so what I did was I stamped foil onto cards, and this company had like a larger business where they sold like personalized cards and stationery and all kind of like to business stuff. So like if you wanted to buy 10,000 holiday cards for your company, you could do that and personalize it, and we would produce it. So they had a website where you could go and customize things. And what would actually happen is it wasn't real time or anything. So you'd kind of like pick a font, you'd pick the stuff that you want based off of like pictures, examples, and then when you configured it, it would send it off to like a pre-flight department, and someone using Quark Express would sit there and like build the preview and email it back to the client. And then from there, it would go over to typesetting, and so they would actually like have these metal dies that they made, and so you basically had this metal die, you put it on a plate, and then the printer would just like smash the card onto foil between the plate, and the plate was hot, so it would stick, and that job sucked. And they had like an internal like employee kind of like promotion thing, so I stayed there for a little while, and then I applied because I think there was like a time limit to where you had to work a certain job before you could look for another one within the company. And so then I applied for something in the tech side, because I knew that they had people that did stuff with computers, and they give you these gloves when you're running the press, and the plate where the die sits on is magnetic, and so you'd put it onto the plate and it would snap it would get really close, but then it would snap, right? And so it would pinch holes in your gloves. Ooh. And so then you'd go to grab the die off, and your finger would go onto the hole in the glove, and you'd burn your finger. So I burned my fingers a lot. It was so annoying. I mean,
better pinching the glove than your skin, right? Isn't that the idea?
Yeah, I never got my skin pinched, but I got burnt a bunch. Yeah, and it was super boring. Like you'd have to like run 10,000 and stop it, and then you'd have to get your what's the tool called? It's just like a ruler with two ends on it that you can move around, so you can set it like a distance. You take your caliper, and then you'd have to like remeasure everything. And then sometimes you'd have to like inspect the print, because sometimes the die would be, just had imperfections in it. And so like some letters might get smashed. So then you'd have like a portion of the card have like a heavier font weight because the actual metal was getting smashed. And so then you have to go over typesetting and be like, I need these two letters. And then you get mad because then you're interrupting their queue of stuff. I just didn't like it. And then of course you just had to stand there while it's just printing. So you're just watching this machine just print these cards for hours. Anyway, I got the heck out of there. And went into the department that was working on like these previews, like working on building these sites, because it wasn't like a totally dynamic thing. When new products would come out that they wanted to offer, you kind of had to have someone sit there and like use a CMS more or less to kind of put the pages together and the options together. So you basically were using a form builder. So you would get pictures of the fonts and pictures of different things from the art department, and then you plug it into this convoluted website, and then you just do that all day.
That was the birth of your web development days, is that right?
No.
Okay.
That happened before that, but I would hardly even call that web development. You're just copying and pasting stuff.
Okay.
Also the other part of this is that this company also had a software company that they owned, and the software that they made, the company that I worked for, was largely the only consumer of the software. And I am definitely remembering this correctly. It was garbage, like super buggy. They weren't necessarily incentivized to like do it well, because they're not going to lose their only client, like the only client that matters, right? So there was always these annoying bugs in the software that we just had to find ways around ourselves, because they wouldn't fix it. Like you would file bug reports, and then you hear back from your manager, oh yeah, they're just not going to, like the won't fix tag, like closing won't fix.
I feel personally attacked, Sean.
Well, yeah, I mean, but you're far and away different from what these people were doing. So I remember like towards the end of my time there, they were building this thing called Print Fusion maybe. And it would sort of make a lot of this stuff dynamic. And yes, I was sitting in on meetings like learning how we could use this to make ourselves obsolete. And then I quit.
What were we talking about originally? We were talking about. There was a whole reason we started talking about this.
I don't remember.
The cubicle. We were talking about
Yeah.
working in the cube and the shred doing whatever.
I don't know. Someone in the chat remember how?
What was the cubicle job? That was the same
Yeah.
company. Gotcha.
Yeah,
okay.
same company. Yep.
Okay.
Oh, right. Yeah, using Facebook inside of like Excel UI. Yeah.
I remember some apps, having that feature. I think. Do you remember Cats and Dogs with a Z?
Cats
Little
and
virtual pet that would live on your desktop. They had like cats, up to cats 4, I think, and they were just fun little things you could
yes.
raise, and they could run around your desktop and whatever. But yeah, that had a similar thing.
I've seen fish tanks too.
Yeah, where you could hit a shortcut and it would hide the app and make it look like whatever you're doing work.
There's also the VS Code Pets plugin that I just linked into the chat. So if
What
you want
is
some
this?
pets, if you use VS Code and you want some pets, here you go.
Oh, I have enough distractions in my day.
It puts a little Tamagotchi in the bottom right of VS Code. Thomas had a hand in this. What are you talking about?
There's even a little clip it. Thomas, you better fess up. He says he was in the work meeting where Anthony proposed it.
That's cool.
Technically, isn't his name Clippit, not Clippy? I think I remember reading that somewhere. It might be a real deep cut. Oh, Winona is a reference? Winona was a reference for a dog on here. Enthusiastic dog. That's funny.
So I wanted to follow up on Ionic, and I wanted to see, did you go back to using Swift? Or are you still kind of like poking around Ionic, or have you not had time to do either of the two?
So the short answer is no, I haven't looked at Ionic anymore. I haven't looked at Swift anymore either. I sat on the couch having an existential crisis a couple days ago, trying to decide what to do next. And I decided to procrastinate on that. Instead work on the server component.
Right.
And then I didn't get very far in that either because I realized there were some major technical challenges to the way it used to work and the way I wanted it to work now. And so I just kind of hung up after I designed the schemas. I was like, oh, this is not going to scale. This is not going to work. Mm-hmm. The way the app works now is there's no server component. Well, there is, but I don't run it. There are 3 or 4 different data sources for information that you can select in the app, and each of them is implemented totally separately. There's a totally separate filter, fields, totally separate way of selecting the data you want. And then each thing has its own parser that pulls the data down from those websites, right? And some of them are JSON, some of them are XML, some of them are like screen scraping HTML, right? It's bad. It's real bad. It's all done on device. And my thought was, how cool would it be to normalize all that? So on the server end, I scrape all those 4 data sources into a database, into one, normalized, nice, clean data table that I can just purge every 24 hours so it doesn't grow infinitely, right? And then just build a nice little query interface on top of that, and away you go. But the volume of data to do that is just way too high. Like these are like thousands of rows, like per minute,
Per minute?
Yeah, coming in, because some of these data sources are completely automated, like scraping data out of the air. The people have computers all over the world and they listen to the airwaves, and they're listening to digital modes. They're decoding like digital data, sometimes even Morse code too. They can decode Morse code on the fly, without a human doing it. And so they'll post all these Morse code spots, they're called, to these servers. And if you can tell it into these servers and get the fire hose. But let me tell you, it's a fire hose. And then it's not just sucking that data down and normalizing, but it's also figuring out geolocation, right? Because mapping is a big part of the app, and a lot of these data sources don't have location data along with them. So I would have to find a way to get location data
Right.
for all these things. And then the question is, okay, like I can cache, each spot has 2 call signs, and those call signs are more or less static in terms of where they live. So every time I fetch a location, I can check my cache and say, hey, do I already have the location for this call sign? I could just slap it on there, right? And just update it occasionally, or if I get a more accurate location thing, I can update that, right? But all those kind of challenges, I don't know. I just kept getting a lot of roadblocks because the data sources that I pull from don't have real APIs to get at their data. It's all really hacky ways to do it.
Right.
And I'd also be kind of worried that trying to do that would, not be in good faith on the web, where you're like scraping data from, gigantic web pages that have thousands of rows on them. So,
what do you mean by not in good faith there?
Well, just because that's the way the data sources are not designed to be used. Like they're not supposed to be wholesale, warehouses of information. Like they're supposed to be used by users who are just checking occasionally, not slamming the server once every 2 minutes. So
yeah, I was trying to build a tool for Jamie a while back, and essentially there's a database where I think toxic spills or spills with not good things in them are reported, and there's not a way to sort of receive alerts about that. You kind of have to go and check, and so it's sort of time sensitive, because if you're the one, if you need to know to dispatch someone to investigate, you want to make sure that they get there before someone brushes something under the rug or massages it's not as bad as it actually is, and so she wanted some sort of alert tool for it, and so I was working on that, and she gave me the link, and it turns out you can't scrape it at all because it just takes the whole thing down.
You just DDoS it?
Yeah, but it was a seriously low amount of you can't scrape it more than once every 3 minutes or something, and it would just go down for
Somebody
a little bit and come back up.
Somebody forgot to put some indexes on their table, basically. Is what it sounds like.
It was. I looked it up, and it's an enterprise web view of a database. So it's some enterprise tool that allows you just to turn on a web view of some database somewhere.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So it's it's on it's like an old HTTP or Dell in someone's closet, more or less.
Probably.
In an office somewhere. Yeah. So yeah, same kind of thing. It's a cool idea. It would be useful for her and whoever would be monitoring this, right? But yeah, it's probably not great to be DDoSing probably government property.
Yeah.
So yeah, basically it sounds like it's not really a technical. It's not a language or framework problem at this point. It's a kind of fundamental issue of the thing itself.
Yeah, and I think what I'm going to do is, I think maybe the easiest path forward is just forget about normalizing, at least into a database. Just have my database be this just thin layer that basically proxies. Here's an API request from the client. It's a nice GraphQL thing, right? And there's different interfaces for these 4 different data sources, right? Different query parameters, different results. And then I just have to implement, the Elixir Phoenix server is just going to have to fetch the API, be the middleman, fetch the API, get the data back, and just do the thing. And that way, basically, at least the parsing and the, that's not on device. Because that way, if the parsing breaks, I don't have to push an update to the App Store, right? I just update my server and the data will keep flowing. And, maybe I can get some benefits there in terms of geolocation and that kind of stuff. Get some, at least do that caching piece, or who knows. But, so kind of do an in-between solution there where at least offload all the processing, just make the client just a dumb client. And then I can work into more about do I want push notifications? Do I need user accounts for syncing anything? All that stuff. I don't want to have to do all that. I don't think I need to, but it's cool to have that option.
Right. Yeah, you can just do any sort of enriching later that you might need to do.
Yeah. And keep in mind, all these API things I completely reverse engineered these from web pages. I wouldn't just, just went to the Ajax view and just kind of figured out what the queries all are. And one of them's broken right now because they changed the query and I'm getting 1 stars in the App Store, which is not great.
Oh, no.
So I kind of got to fix it.
Yeah, that's a bummer.
Yeah.
Have you ever reached out to any of them and said something like, you should make an API or expose an API?
Yeah, years ago. I just never heard back.
Right. I mean, I probably wouldn't respond if someone emailed me about that for DK or something. So.
And even one of the ones I worked on for SodaGoat, like they've said for years they were going to have an API, and they even documented it with Swagger and stuff, or OpenAPI, whatever. And even that took years to go to be, usable in production, and they were actively working on it. Drives me crazy, man.
Yeah, it's cool that you kind of are still thinking about it, or sitting down and having a think about the problem at hand.
I'm trying. I'm really trying to find the energy and the motivation to keep plowing forward on this, because you know how that goes.
Yeah, that's all I'm trying to do too.
Yep.
Is do the same thing, which is why, I asked Paul earlier. I was like, I know you're going to be up. I'll be up. Do you want to? It's like Jamie's friends in law school keeping each other awake for tests, studying. They'd hop on a FaceTime and be like, "Don't go to sleep. Don't go to sleep." But yeah, I made some decent progress over the last couple of days too.
Yeah, tell me about this, because you've been pinging me in the Discord, tell me about what's going on. It sounds really cool.
Well, now every time someone sees something about some service doing something with encryption, I get a DM about it, or like, an added on Discord or something, which is cool. But yeah, I just rolled with Firebase, and think about what you want. I don't know. It's like as soon as I was like, all right, I'm just gonna use Firebase, I just started seeing people talking smack about backend as a service, which is fine. But I'm growing, because it didn't affect me and it didn't change my ways. I just continued writing the code. But yeah, so I'm using Firebase. It's basically ready for Jamie to be used now, and it's completely real time too. So I was using React Query with the Electron version just to manage the server state, and that way I can easily pull data in and trash a cache and have the UI update. But Firebase's client library, it has subscriptions built into it. So instead of having to use React Query that's sort of timer-based and timeout-based, it's all completely real-time just by using the client they give me. So it's kind of fun. Like, I can drop a bunch of MSG files onto the window, and I watch the message list populate, and then I watch the little what are they called? This icon tags that. So in the message list, there's a tag under the subject that says PDF, SVG, whatever the attachments are. So you can see the message list populate, and then the attachment tags start to populate as they finish uploading.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. So you can literally watch everything get saved and get persisted and stored and updated on the fly like that. So it's been surprisingly productive, which is nice. I haven't had any major hangups with the document-based stuff at all. In fact, it's been kind of fun to learn more about it. There are a lot of niceties that Firebase kind of gives you. So, for example, if you make a query in your code and you actually need a compound index for it to be performant, Firebase in the console will stop the query and it will throw an error, and it'll say, "Hey, you need a query for this. Click on this link." So you click on the link, and it takes you to the query view for that collection in Firestore, and it pre-populates the index for you. And then you just say, "Yes, this is what I want," and then it creates it for you.
So it gives you a little preview, and then you just say, "Create the thing."
Right. And in fact, their documentation even says, don't worry about this doing up front. If you run into something where you need it, we'll tell you, and we'll help you set it up. I was like, all right, I can deal with that.
Really? That's very cool.
Yeah, I was surprised with it, or surprised about that, because I hadn't read those docs first. I saw the error, and I clicked on it thinking it was just going to link me to docs, but it actually just made the index for me.
Now, you've had less than a week in this, but have you had any issues with conflicts in terms of syncing state between two different devices, and how do you handle that normally?
I don't think you would with Firebase.
What does that mean?
Well, I mean, I don't have any firsthand experience here. Maybe if Paul's in the chat, he might be able to speak up about that a little bit more. But it seems all very hands off.
Okay. I mean, it just yeah, when you're streaming state like that back and forth with little messages, there's always a chance for a race condition where, you delete a message and you mark it as read in another thing, and how do you handle that case? Or I know your application doesn't have a ton of state necessarily and you're not probably using two devices at the same time, but
well, that's not a client. I don't think that would be a client side concern anyway, though, right?
Well, sure it is, because when you have a subscription, you're getting sort of these incremental state updates, right? You're not getting the entire store on every push. You're just getting,
right.
State changes. And if the state is changing something that's, not true anymore, I could see it getting out of sync.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So like you mean like optimistically updating the UI and trying to send bad data back.
That's one example. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure that the client extracts all of it. So you can even enable offline support to where it does everything locally, and then once you have connection again, it'll just sync your stuff back to Firestore automatically.
Right. So that's the worst case, issue we're going to actually have to think about. Conflicts, but maybe you don't. Maybe I just don't know enough about it.
I think that if I were doing more of this by hand or like at a lower level, I probably would have to think about it, but the Firebase library is the one that deals with that. So the developer using it, you probably have to think about things while you're working on it, but it's largely transparent to you.
That's cool. And obviously I don't know a lot about document stores either, so maybe there's just some inherent advantages there that I haven't really thought about. Like maybe it's just easy, instead of trying to, diff things, just blast the whole document, and whatever the latest one is wins, and whatever the latest version is, and that's the canonical version of that thing. Maybe it's something as simple as that. I don't know.
Yeah, they have their advantages for sure. I need to go back and reread these NoSQL from Your Mortals, because it actually does the whole breakdown of like, here's what these are probably good at, like document bases are all that stuff. It kind of breaks that down for you. And there's another book too, I think that Paul told me about a while back. I can't remember what it's called, but it has a bore on the front of it. And it also talks about different situations where different types of storages are best fits. And yeah, Paul is saying in the chat, like, it sounds like you can kind of pick whatever strategy you need to in that situation. But yeah, the document storage has been okay so far. I mean, a lot of people kind of go towards it. I say a lot of people. What I mean to say is I've observed a lot of people writing about picking it in the Node ecosystem because it's faster to market, in a sense, like, because you don't have the SQL, you don't have the schema design, you can just throw stuff into it. But what that does is it forces that sort of source of truth for the schema or the design and the shape of your data into the code at that point. Because if you don't have like a schema in a database to sort of keep everything straight or enforce shape, then you have to do it in the client. So you end up with a lot more. Okay, for example, like if I'm adding, let's say that Jamie is using the Electron app, and then I want to add read status, like, have I read this thing? Add a blue dot if it's new, take it away if it's not, and it's a new feature. And so in a normal SQL database, you'd probably run a migration to add that and pre-populate the values to false or true for all of the existing messages, right? Well, in Firestore, in your front end, you just say if red is false or undefined, just put a blue dot there. So you kind of have the third condition. It's either true or false or has not been set, and then you do the setting for it. So yeah, you move a lot of that logic into your code base, which has definite trade-offs. But
well, I do that a lot for remote ham radio because the primary unit of state going back and forth is messages, right? These little JSON objects that just basically have a type field, right, to say what the type of the message is, just like mutations or in Vuex, right, or any kind of front end. What's the word I'm trying to think of? Redux store, Flux store, right? Anyway, so a lot of times in RHR, I have to do that because I've added or removed something to this message or added a new message type or whatever, but I can't update the server and the client at the same time, right? The client's going to live on. I'm not going to force users to refresh or maybe I haven't updated all the servers yet, right? So I have to do that a lot in RHR. But luckily that stuff is pretty short-lived, and I'll try to leave myself a little note that says like, hey, after version XYZ, you can remove this check because it's all, everything's all up to date. And usually that stuff sticks around for a while, but it doesn't hurt anything, and it's pretty easy just to remove there. But I suppose in Firebase you could have a maintenance sort of task that does go and normalizes all your old stuff, right? If you wanted to add a field, all your old objects.
What I would probably do there is just use like a Firebase function or whatever it's called. So just have something that runs. They allow you with functions to schedule stuff with cron. There's a number of ways to schedule it. So yeah, you could create something like that and have it run.
Cool.
Yeah, there's not like a console that you boot up and you're able to run commands there, but you could probably even just spin up a one-off function and have it run. I don't know. I haven't had to do it myself yet, but that's probably how I would approach it first. And I think you get like 2 million function runs for free per month before they start charging you like, a cent or something. I don't know, a tenth of a cent.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's something I've been thinking about too with enriching this stuff. Is can I use functions to, like import the base stuff that we need and then use functions to go like have one function that's for maybe surfacing the important keywords and removing stop words and building like a sort of search index. So Firebase doesn't have full text support, like full text searching support in it. You can only do like comparators or if you have an array data type, you could say, is the thing I'm looking for in this array currently? But there's no sort of plain text matching, which is kind of a bummer. And in fact, their documentation suggests just using Algolia, and they just link you to Algolia.
Algolia is
basically a managed Elasticsearch. I mean, it's more than that, but
okay.
Imagine that it's just a managed Elasticsearch or like a third party. Yeah, search as a service. So yeah, they just say just use that. So for a really like an actual good search experience, that's probably the best way to do it. Again, encrypting things, like if I'm already thinking about security and already thinking about like maybe a potential feature, like an upselling feature would be the ability to encrypt certain threads or encrypt, batches, or have like a folder where this collection's encrypted, this one's not, or whatever. I don't love the idea of like adding another third-party service into the mix, even though it's probably not a real, major concern. But I was trying to think about, okay, well, if I'm doing this MVP, I could hook up Algolia, or I could be on import have, a function that runs that strips out stop words and things like that, and then just makes a small array, and then you would just search for words that are contained in that array, and you sort of have a poor person's
index, basically, right?
Yeah, index. Yeah. So I don't love that idea, but it would work. It'd be serviceable for now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you can't. Yeah.
So aside from all that stuff, like I said, I've been making good progress. It's basically, I'm doing the code jam tonight just because I have tomorrow off, and I just want to have the MVP done for it so I can actually break into React Native. And I found, so Firebase CLI is like nice to work with anyway. I haven't had any issues with it. It's easy enough to get started with. But I found a couple of utilities one's called Typesaurus and the other one's called Typesaurus React. So it's just React React bindings or like React hooks that use Typesaurus. And it allows you to basically like say, I want to get a list of things. And in Firebase, you wouldn't necessarily have like a typed list that comes back. You'd have to sort of typecast and say, this list here, I know it's this model or this type of thing, right? So Typesaurus allows you to have like a typed version of the Firebase stuff. So I'll pop the link here. Just using generics, like you use the collection method and then you say, I want to get the collection messages, and then using the generic, you tell it which actually type is going to be returned. And so all the typings come back as a promise with a list of the type that you sent in. So it's actually pretty nice to work with.
Yeah, I'm just looking through the README now. Some of these examples looks pretty cool.
Yep, and then TypeSource React gives you React hooks that you can use that wrap those utilities. So, for example, there's a sidebar with just a list of messages, and it basically what I'm building looks like an email inbox, right? And you want the sidebar on the left to be infinitely scrollable. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to rebuild this, and I'm going to have to work with the cursor API, and it's not terrible, but it's still work you have to do. Well, I found TypeSource, and the React bindings, they actually have a use infinite query hook that handles maintaining all of the cursor state for you, which is kind of nice. And then they have a use infinite query does that, and then they have use infinite scrolling, which automatically handles the watchers and calls a little more for you. So I just slapped two functions or two hooks into my component, and it was done. It's like, that was easy. What now?
That's pretty awesome. That's awesome.
So yeah, I mean, pretty nice. So obviously I'm not trying to build like businesses and take them, enterprise is a bad example, but I'm not trying to like make a career off of these businesses, right? So, there's a lot of discussion around backend as a service. Like I may be thinking about this more now because I was seeing Brandon Bayer from Blitz.js talking about backend as a service, how it's like vendor lock-in, right? Like that's never a great thing, or in many cases it's not a great thing. And I understand that argument for sure, but for me it's like the ability to just have this thing exist and have the tools like auth is done, security rules are done, running it locally and testing functions locally is done,
pushing subscriptions
is done. Yeah, subscriptions is done, and it's super super cheap, like we've been talking about. So I'm like, that's pretty compelling for me for side projects. Like it'd be hard for me to go away to something else for a side project unless there was a legitimate technical concern or reason for me to do that at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the other nice thing about it is that it does scale, right? So if you do get some kind of crazy audience or foothold, and you are making lots of money, and it'll just scale for free. I mean, you don't have to do any extra work, and it'll probably just keep working just fine. So like you don't even have to worry about that piece. Not that, it's a benefit on both ends. When you're small, it's a benefit because you don't have to worry about the pieces. And if you get big, yeah, it's going to cost you some money, but you also still don't have to worry about it.
Right. And Anthony in the chat is saying, is like bringing up that like Brandon says that like about the backend service vendor lock-in, but he's not trying to run his own infra, so he loves backend services. He just wants it to be portable, and that's really the point he was making. He's like, yeah, you're locked into a vendor because if you're on Firebase, you can't take your data unless you can export it right into whatever format, but then you can't really just like if you're on Postgres somewhere in one service, you could just go to Postgres at another service, take the dump, and you're it's a lot easier to kind of get out per se. And I can definitely understand that. But yeah, for me, it's like I've been talking for months and months about I don't want to have to build that again. You know what I mean? And so I'm feeling pretty comfortable here with this Firebase stuff. And I'm sure someone's going to DM me about like, welcome to the document side, or something. And that's not what I'm saying. I still like SQL. I like the idea of SQL and all that, but it's so convenient. It is super convenient. I'll say that.
Well, and you made a point to me before in chat. This is a document-based application. You literally have documents, lists of information with metadata attached to them. Like, it doesn't have to be this whole structured relational thing. You basically, like you said, it's an email app. You just got a big list of documents, and each of them kind of have their own state separately from everything else. There's not a lot of intra relationships between those documents, except maybe think about threading, maybe think about contacts or search or whatever, but like you can still build all that stuff and add it on later. It doesn't have to be in the document, a property of the document. And so
yep,
I think it makes a lot of sense for this application for sure.
Yeah, it's working pretty well. And the other couple of side projects I have too, it fits pretty well as well. So like I said, aside from like a real technical concern, I think that I probably am going to become very proficient or efficient with this stack.
And there are up and coming open source sort of clones of what Firebase does, right? What was that one we saw the other day where it's it's all based around Postgres, but it implements sort of Firebase's interface. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Supabase, yeah.
Is that Supabase?
Yep.
Railway is another, says Anthony in the chat.
Yeah, Supabase is it looks a lot like Firebase, but it's based on Postgres, and it gives you the client library for accessing your data. It gives you the authentication. It gives you a bunch of stuff. It's just on Postgres.
Yeah, and this is appealing for, it gives you an out, right? If you are worried about that vendor lock-in, and you're just using sort of the basic features of Firebase, this gives you an option to go independent if you absolutely need to for whatever reason. If Google decides to cancel things, but they don't like to cancel things really.
That was one of the big things I saw on the Twitter thread about that was, what if they do get canceled? Like Facebook shut down Parse, but I think it's a little bit different in Firebase's situation. I don't know for sure, obviously, what numbers they're doing, but it seems like it's a little different.
Thomas says, friend of the show Greg just joined Railway.
He did.
Sweet.
Looks like he had tweeted about it 13 minutes ago, so we're safe.
Okay, this is breaking news.
Yeah, breaking news. Yeah, so he was talking about doing the platform as a service side project a bit, or maybe he didn't talk about it on the show, but that was something he was exploring. And Anthony showed me Railway, and I showed it to Greg, and Greg messaged them, and now he works for them. So shout out to Anthony. But yeah, I feel pretty proficient and comfortable with things now. So I feel like I really have transitioned from tech first side projects to like business first. It's not even business here, but like utility first side project maybe is what I'm trying to say.
Shipping first.
Shipping first. Yeah, that's it. So yeah, by this time tomorrow, the MVP, I mean, like literally no sales, no nothing. It's just like usable for somebody. It should be ready to go.
And this is still on Electron with React, right? No,
it's all in the web. Or browser, rather, in the browser, not Electron based.
Oh.
I mean, I could certainly keep it in the Electron wrapper, but
so I totally missed this. So the front end, right? Because there's no data, you don't need any local data storage anymore. That's the point.
Yep.
Gotcha.
So, and the reason I went back to web is because the main reason for considering the change was even that Jamie wanted to use it on multiple. Hold on. Hey, little yippy dogs. Hey, you're not scaring anybody. Scaring each other. So the main use case was that Jamie wanted to use it on multiple devices, and so putting it back in the browser, like she can just do that right now, and she doesn't have to wait for me to. She doesn't have to wait for me to learn React Native and ship something for her to use in that situation. Like I'm still going to do that, but this sort of solves that issue currently.
Greg's here.
Hey, welcome. He told on us that we were talking about Railway.
We almost spoiled your tweet by 13 minutes. So much for being effectively unhireable.
Yeah. Thomas dropping the spoilers in the chat.
It's awesome, Greg.
Yeah. Hey, what's up, Princess Peach? Welcome. Snitches. Yeah, so yeah, I'm feeling pretty good about it. I'm sure as I get past the MVP phase into actually adding more features to it, I'll have more thoughts and feelings about document storage, or solving problems that I know how to solve relationally with the document storage. So I'm sure I'll talk more about it.
I think the path you should take next is the freemium model, right? Build some features, put them behind a feature flag, and throw in some Stripe payments or something. Like,
right.
Why not?
So that's the goal, really. So I'm not trying to make like a bunch of money with this thing. I just want it to be useful for Jamie, and if other people find it useful, that's cool too. And so I was thinking about how I might want to charge for this thing, and really, it'd be like I would just want to charge for the things that are hard, like encryption, and a few other things that I have in a notebook. But yeah, so that's the idea, is put it out there mostly for free because it doesn't cost me anything really. And then if there's things that are difficult that would bring value to it, then charge, like upsell for those, like freemium, like you said, a la carte almost in a way.
Even if they're easy and they add value to it, you still charge for those. You especially charge for those. Biggest ROI there, man.
This is why you handled the business stuff for the podcast for a long time.
That's cool, man. Seeing you and Paul talk about Firebase really, I don't feel like I have any applications for it right now, but maybe I just need to sit down and play with it, and I'm sure I'll get some ideas. One of the things I've struggled with Remote Ham Radio since day one is pushing state from the server to the client. Each of our stations has a big blob of state associated with it, and I've always just done it by just message passing and just using PubSub as a way to incrementally push state, and the client has to hold all that state, the client has to diff all that state, the client has to display the state, has to figure everything out, right? How cool would it be to just have even just for this one particular part of the business, just have a fire store, I guess that's the word, where each document is just like, here's the quote-unquote view into each individual station, and then the station just blasts up to that thing blasts down to all subscribers, is authenticated, and then I could build any different view I need on top of that. So I can subscribe to sort of different levels of like we could have a widget that we could stick on our page that says like, hey, here's our 30 sites and here's which ones are active right now, and they just have like 2 or 3 pieces of data, right? Like we've wanted to do that forever, and that's a lot of work right now because I have to build a whole new client just to pull down the state and sync it and get it in the store, and then figure out how to anonymize it, and et cetera, right? Like even just that one application would just be a huge win for me. So
yeah. And they have the real-time database too, which is more for like actual real-time stuff.
That sounds like what I need then.
Yeah, like you could probably do that with the Firestore stuff via subscriptions, but it sounds like the real-time database is what you need there, because it's tailored to specifically that real-time factor.
So it's more of like a Redis style thing. Yeah.
I mean, I've not used it myself, but yeah, it seems like it's more like that. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting to think about this kind of stuff too, because I had always just kind of built stuff from scratch and not really reached for outside services. But now, there are lots of auth options out there. In fact, I don't want to spoil too much, but I'm working on getting another guest on the show that has an auth startup, and we can talk about authentication and doing it correctly and all that stuff. But I've always kind of like built it myself in the past, and now, yeah, like having access to all these tools that just exist and just using them. I don't know. At first, like I'm getting more comfortable with the idea. 'Cause at first, I was kind of uneasy about the idea of vendor lock-in, the idea of like the chat was saying, somebody was a YouTuber and I think Twitcher as well was building stuff on back end and people tried to DDoS them. And so I'm becoming less leery of those things because there are tools put in place to mitigate those factors. You just have to be aware of those factors to actually mitigate them. So I'm starting to feel more comfortable with like stitching services together instead of sort of owning everything on my own. And at the end of the day, even if I'm on DigitalOcean, I don't have a bare metal server with an app on it that I can pick up if I want to like take it somewhere else. You know what I mean? So in spirit, it's like, it's always been that way anyway, where I don't truly own the infrastructure that I'm working on.
I don't think that's an apples to apples comparison because the VM is like the most portable unit of computation that you can take to any vendor, whereas Firebase is not. But I get your point.
Yeah.
It's just all about giving up, trading off control and for simplicity and abstraction.
Convenience,
yeah.
Convenience, yeah.
It is kind of nice too that RHR has a lot of different pieces, but they're all pretty boring pieces. I mean, I literally roll my own Phoenix deployments by myself. Hot upgrades and stuff like with using Distillery. I don't even use a service for that. It's just VMs and in AWS behind a load balancer. That's it. That's a pretty solved problem. Rails. Yeah, I use Cloud 66 to manage it because it's convenient, but I could use any number of other services and do that. So, yeah, I for the where our business is now and the fact that everything's already built out, I prefer to have that control and have the options to do that. So that's working fine for me, but sure does sound compelling to use the cool new shiny thing.
Well, so let me ask you about this. So we're seeing lots of railway chat in the chat, and Firebase in a similar way where you don't actually have any stuff running locally. It's sort of all running on a server. So with Firebase, you have a dev environment, but it's not on your laptop. You're developing against like a DB that's in the cloud automatically, right? So in theory, you can't just hop on a plane and be like, oh, I want to hack on my thing if you don't pay for internet access or whatever. To me, that's not a huge deal. But Railway is similar. If I'm remembering correctly, you spin up a service, dev in production or whatever, but you basically have a service running somewhere else. You do all your dev on that service that's running somewhere else.
Yeah. I mean, I never ran SendMail, I've always used a mail service, right?
Sure. Yeah, that's a good point. It's just funny that these were the things that made me uneasy about like picking a service like Railway or Firebase at first. But in reality, it's like, what are the chances that how many days? Like I can't even count on one hand how many days. Or sorry, I like don't need any hands at all to count how many days I just didn't have internet in the last year. Right. So it's not like a legitimate concern for me to have. It's just I read it somewhere and I'm like, well, what if they're right?
And I'll tell you, one time or sometimes I have gotten on a plane with the intention of being productive, and then I realized I forgot a dependency or something and do like, bundle install or npm install, and it just fails. And then I just sit there and I'm sad because now I can't do work.
Right.
But, 0.0001% of my hours have been spent doing that.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's negligible, but it's funny. It's like the biggest roadblock that comes to mind when I start thinking about this stuff.
Yeah.
It's it is what it is. But
same reason I own an SUV. Like, how often do I need an SUV? Basically never. But that one time,
sure was useful.
Yeah. Hey, I can fit an entire oven in the back of that thing.
I mean, how do you know that? Have you put an oven in there?
Yeah, and I took it out. Barely fit.
That's funny. Well, I guess, we also had some requests in the chat to follow up on your chicken. Do you still have a chicken?
I'm sorry, you roboted out of me.
Oh, I was just following up on the chicken from last week because we had some concerned citizens in the Twitch chat.
Yeah, so the chicken, I got up in the morning the next day. I let the chicken, the coop, makeshift coop. Wow. The makeshift coop was one of those big Rubbermaid containers. I took it out. I left the cover half off. The chicken just kind of hung out in there, poked her head around for a couple hours, and then I just checked back and she was gone. So that's the update, is that there is no update. Chicken is gone. I haven't heard or seen from chicken. I'm choosing to imagine that chicken made it home successfully, back to her flock, and is living a happy life, laying eggs and eating corn.
So now do you have like a chicken-sized hole in your heart? You getting one?
Don't tell Jess.
Isn't she in here? She wasn't here 55 minutes ago.
Greg has chickens, right? Or you were talking about getting chickens?
I believe so. I'll let Greg pipe up in the chat.
Should we just get him on the call?
I'm going to send you a link, Greg. Hold on. No. 8 chickens and 1 rooster. Okay. It's got a number of chickens.
What a stud.
Yeah.
The rooster. Hens. Hens is the correct term, I guess. Maybe we've been using the wrong word.
So 9 chickens, 8 hens, and 1 rooster.
A square is a rectangle.
Yeah. Cool. Well, hopefully this time by next week I have an MVP up and I'll have one customer who's sitting behind the green screen, which you can't see.
Well, one customer is infinitely more than you had last week, so.
Yes, and I'm charging in pizzas, so the web client costs $1 per month, and if she wants a mobile client, that'll be another pizza per month. So you got 2 pizzas a month.
Instead of MRR, it's MRP.
That's right. Recurring pizzas. I mean, if I'm not spending $40 on a pizza every month, am I making $40? Is this a new life hack? Like, what else could I charge for services? Lawn mowings? I'll make you software if you mow my lawn every month.
That's just bartering. You just invented bartering.
That's right. Yeah, but if I put it like a term on it, I could probably make it go viral. It's like a new concept, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Put it in a like official looking contract. Statement of work.
DNC hackathon. Hey, actually, that could be cool.
RHR to collaborate. You guys all licensed? You can use my call sign. I'll be the control operator.
Yeah, I was going to say, don't I have to have like a ham radio license to...
Technically, as long as I'm control operator and I'm, looking over your shoulder, you can get on the air using my call sign, but I have to be present to pull the plug if you're doing anything illegal.
So it's like taking the kids to the museum?
It's more like it's like letting the kid fly the plane, like sit in the pilot's seat. It's like that. Only a little safer.
Line 12. That's funny.
Well,
shall we?
Yeah, I wanted to get this one other thing out of the way here.
Okay.
So speaking of recurring revenue, I have some really exciting news that I've been trying to keep my mouth shut about, but it's actually pretty official now. So I wanted to at least mention it, even though I don't actually have any new information. So I mentioned at the beginning of this year that I was looking at doing something different this year, looking for some new avenues, looking for some new outlets. And I'm just going to get right to it. What am I trying to say? But yeah, so basically as of next week, I'll officially be a contractor for Dockyard, which is super exciting. I'm on a 6-month engagement with them over the summer. I'm working 4 days a week for them, working on Phoenix, Elixir, LiveView, and it's gonna be super sweet. I got to interview with Chris McCord, which was cool. He was like my technical interview, so I just got to sit down with him and talk about Elixir and Phoenix stuff, and that was super cool. So it's been a cool process so far. I don't have any details right now, unfortunately. Obviously, NDAs and stuff. I'm not gonna be able to talk about the clients and whatever, but hopefully, tangentially I'll be able to talk about we'll come up with some content based off of that. But I'm super excited to take a deep dive back into the Phoenix and Elixir world. So, and get my foot in the door at Dockyard, because that's the contractor gig will allow me to at least still spend some time on remote ham radio while I figure out how to transition this whole thing. 'Cause that's gonna eat up a big chunk of my time, and I really gotta juggle all those balls now.
Yeah. That's really cool though, because it's right up your alley in technology you're interested in, technology you're already working with, you're using professionally. So it'd be cool to it seems like you'll be just doubling down on that knowledge, like working around Chris, like the person that created Phoenix or started Phoenix, originally. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely. And what am I trying to say? Yeah, so the interview process was cool because it was 3, remote interviews, and the first 2 were actually with HR and with the director of engineering, and which seemed so backwards to me. Like, I thought I was expecting technical interviews from the start as sort of like a weed out, but actually the weed out was, hey, let's sit down and talk about the expectations about what this job is, what you want, and what we have to offer and what we want, and make sure that everyone is still on the same page about what the job is. Because the job listing was just typical job listing, but but actually sitting down and getting the details and talking about like, hey, is this still something you're interested in? I thought that was a really interesting way to just sort of get that out of the way first,
Right.
And so that was a little different than what I was expecting, but it was a really good discussion to have just right up the front.
That's kind of how MetaLabs is too, or was for me anyway, where I talked with a recruiter first and they outlined expectations, they outlined day-to-day, they outlined what they'd expect from me and allowed me to ask questions and kind of feel things out as well. And that was kind of cool. And it seems like being on the other side of the hiring process at MetaLab, it seems like it can be a pretty efficient tool to do that first process without taking your engineers' time and putting them into interviews and
exactly. Yeah. When I talked with Chris, we got on the call. He's like, "Oh, it's so weird seeing you outside of an Uber."
Did he remember? Did he remember that interaction?
Well, I don't know. I put it in as a joke at the bottom of my resume when I submitted it to see if anyone would get to the bottom of the resume and mention it and ask me about it. Just kind of a I don't know, Easter egg, but I think you remembered.
Yeah. Yeah. So we then like there's the initial screening, and then we have like a take home test that's like a paid take home test for people, and then after that step there is a face to face. So with like the engineers. So. Mm-hmm.
One of the things I also didn't expect was that Chris mentioned that he'd see me around in the Elixir Slack helping a lot, which I do spend a lot of time there. And so apparently that was pretty valuable to them as well. There was a question that came up in our Discord a couple weeks ago about how much do companies look at your GitHub activity graph, right? And I think, you provided one of the answers there, right? You basically said none, like they give that no credence at all. Is that true?
I don't know like generally what it's like, but I know I don't, and I know that a few people in the chat also said that they don't. And I guess my reason for that was most of my GitHub contributions are private anyway.
Yeah. I think that's pretty common use case for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But you said he had seen me around in the Elixir, and that was I guess pretty valuable. So that's good because you spend a lot of time there trying to help people. So it's cool that. I don't know. It's nice to get noticed that way.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yep.
Especially because like when Chris, or I don't even know if I've seen Jose pop into Slack, but I've seen Chris pop into Slack, and then like everyone shuts up, or vice versa. It's like everyone just like starts bombing with questions, like one of the two. It's like, I haven't really haven't had any reaction. Well, no, I did. I asked him a question on Slack once, didn't I? And he talked about it in a presentation, or like one of the talks at a conference.
Yeah.
Sorry, what were you saying?
Oh, it was actually funny because the other day I saw the CEO of Dockyard in there, Brian Cardella, I think. Cardella, Cardarella. And he was asking some Phoenix questions, and I was like, man, couldn't he just ask Chris? Like, this is, he's not going to bug Chris for stupid technical things, but first of all, it was cool to see the CEO of the company getting in there and, asking really deep, esoteric Phoenix live view questions, which I thought was awesome. But also, I just saw on Twitter that Chris just had a baby yesterday, so he was probably a little busy in the hospital.
Right. It's great that, that there's that separation. Like, oh, this person's busy. I don't need to be messaging them directly.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm super excited. I was supposed to start Monday, but I guess they're running a little behind on getting stuff worked out with the client. But hopefully I'll have more information by next week.
Well, that's awesome. I don't think I said congrats yet, but a lot of people in the chat were saying congrats and are pretty happy. So I think we all look forward to hearing some of the stuff that you're learning.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm super excited. And Greg said that change is always good, and that was one of the problems with this process for me. Was there was no catalyst for wanting to change other than I wanted to change something. It's not like I was moving. It's not like I needed a job. It's not like there was any major upset that caused me to have to look for a job. So it was hard to even think about, like, even find a path forward for that. What do I want to do? And this was on my short list of things I wanted to do, and I just happened to get really lucky with the timing and everything. So I'm very excited and grateful to be a part of this, and we'll see.
Yeah, that's
see where it goes.
I'm excited. I'm excited for that too.
Yeah.
Just to observe it.
Yeah.
Well, if you want to tell Rockwell, congrats, or have any feedback on Firebase or backend as a service or vendor lock-in or anything really, you should definitely drop us a note.
You drop us a note on Twitter. DNCcast is our thing. Sean is Sean Washbot, and I'm Shrockwell.
Everything that we talked about today, I mean, it wasn't a whole lot, but things like Ionic and Algolia and Dockyard and more, I guess most importantly, the VS Code Pets plugin. We're going to link it in the show notes, and if you want to see those show notes, you can head over to dnc.show.
That's the real take-home here.
Yes, VS Code Pets.
We're streaming on Twitch every Thursday, 6 Pacific, 9 Eastern, even on April 1st. No joke. We're hanging out, we're chatting. Sean's got his cool backdrop. He's got his green screen figured out now, so it looks pretty perfect. His hair even looks good today. He's just on point.
It's because I had a haircut.
Yep. There you go. I noticed. Twitch.tv/DNCcast.
And then aside from Twitch, the rest of the community, they hang out at Discord. So if you're looking for a community to plug into, other developers, probably designers, 3D printers, game developers, I don't know. There's lots of people here doing lots of cool stuff. So if that's something you're interested in, you should check out the show notes, and there'll be a Discord invite waiting for you.
Mm-hmm. Well, happy Friday, happy Easter, and we'll talk to you next week.
Sounds good.
See ya.
See ya. Everyone's getting sick of JavaScript, huh?
I keep forgetting Easter is a thing that's happening.
It's an Ember position on their site. We become an Emberino. Are they still pretty heavily invested in Ember?
So this is actually one of the questions I asked, because I had the impression that they were like strictly like Phoenix, Elixir, Ember, right? Mm-hmm. But that's not at all the case. I mean, they're a consultancy. They will do whatever the client wants them to do, right? So it was actually a funny question, because I put Rails, on my resume, and director of engineering was like, I see you got some Rails on here too, would you be able to do Rails work? And I'm like, I was honest. I was like, yes, Rails is actually the thing I'm probably best at, but that's really not what I'm looking for. Like I don't want to have to do Rails. Like I'm doing this because of the Phoenix and Elixir thing. But I asked them, and I was like, I thought you were pretty much Phoenix and Ember, and they're like, no, we do Rails, we do JavaScript and React Native, and they'll do anything that clients come to them with projects with, whether they're adding staffing, manpower, or bringing into an existing project or whatever. So I know nothing about Ember. I don't think this project will have any Ember, considering that live view is a big part of this project, I think. But I'm really interested to learn more about it and seeing if they did they choose wrong? Like, is Ember dying? I have no idea.
Right. I mean, I think especially being a consultancy, it makes sense that they would make wherever the money's at, right? They would just have to make it work. So
yeah, they had to scale back during COVID because they got work got slow, but they're starting to pick back up. So I think that's part of the reason.
Right.
They had some options. Yeah.
Yeah, the MetaLab is slammed on the website.
Yeah.
Yeah, tons of work coming in, which is great.
Yeah, Anthony, that's kind of the impression I got too, but it's kind of I don't know, a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like if we say it's dying, it's dying. I don't know. Again, I know nothing about it.
Schrodinger's framework.
Bach. Thomas had to go walk his virtual pet. VS Code pet. Do you ever Tamagotchi? or digital pet. What are those other ones called? You ever have one of those?
Why is that, Matt? Oh, like the community? Okay. What do you like about their community? I basically know nothing about Ember.
It has a cute icon, a cute mascot. I know that. Anthony with the history lesson here. This is cool. Interesting. It was trying to be a full framework, but ended up just being this front end thing, and other frameworks kind of learned from their mistakes. Yeah, I could see that. A lot like Rails, less flashy, welcoming, strong stability. Interesting. So more framework than, because like React is not really a framework; it's a library, right?
Yeah, I think like they would probably see that technically. I think that maybe changed a little bit with the React server-side components, but
Sure.
Largely semantics probably at this point.
The way you're describing Anthony makes me understand now why it would be appealing to Dockyard, who was originally a Rails shop before they were, a Phoenix shop, right? And so having a front end that sort of matched that mentality, I think makes sense for something that you would want.
Mm-hmm.
Ember was full MVC. Yeah. That's really interesting. Now I'm actually more interested because that does sound really valuable to me. It sounds pretty compelling. It's funny talking with Chris too, because he kind of spilled some beans on some stuff that he was like, they're exploring and working on, and it's just funny because you can tell he's like always thinking, and he's always sort of distracted by like what he's working on at that given moment. Gigapets, thank you. What Gigapets? I still have him somewhere on the other side of that wall.
I wonder if he's that intense about like distracted to the point of being almost distracted by what he's working on. If that's like just an intense interest in what he's trying to solve at that moment.
I don't know. Maybe like, is that how presence happened? Like I tried to look at the source code for presence and all the CRDT stuff, and it's impenetrably complex. Like it looks like you're reading a straight up research paper, with all the functions and how everything's done in there. It's like, and it's probably perfectly correct and probably has never been touched, and it's probably perfectly fine. But it's like to have the level of focus to like bang that out and get it so solid that it just works, and you can build this nice API on top of it. That's the kind of level that I think that he's on.
Yeah, that's wild. Proof of concept live view in Rust.
I'm really excited to learn more about LiveView because I do hang out in the LiveView channel, and I haven't really touched it in a while, and I haven't used any of the new versions of it. So most of the questions in there I just can't answer and that frustrates me because I want to be able to understand. Even people ask these seemingly simple questions, and LiveView has these weird conventions that you have to, if you don't know about, you're gonna have lots of roadblocks and stuff. And so I look at this, I'm like, yeah, this looks like it should work, but because of the way LiveView works, it doesn't. But I don't know enough about it to understand why.
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, here's the PR I was talking about for adding encryption to Activerecord.
Oh yeah, let's see it. Elixir, but for Crystal? I'm not sure I follow.
For Crystal, but Crystal's founding consultancy is in Argentina. Oh, really? Okay.
I mean, it's funny. You link this PR. This looks to me like a README for one of those Activerecord gems that just does this.
Yeah.
You know? One of those things.
Yeah, Crystal. Yeah. I'll link it for you, Anthony.
Yeah, Crystal is a very heavily Ruby inspired. What, more performant type safe? I forget what the main advantage is.
Super performant and type safe as well, I believe.
Yeah, and it just went 1.0.
Concurrency model uses green threads called fibers to achieve concurrency. Okay. Mm-hmm. Oh, so they can communicate over channels, similar to Go, I suppose.
Green threads, is that just like a thread pool or something? I'm not sure what that means.
Concurrency green thread.
As in Go or Clojure.
Oh, here we go. Green threads. Where'd it go?
Oh, C bindings. That's pretty cool. Just built in straight friggin' go right into C. That's cool.
So green threads are virtual threads, and they're scheduled and managed by the VM or the runtime instead of by the underlying operating system.
Gotcha. Okay, so Erlang uses processes as their concurrency unit of concurrency, but similar concept. The VM manages the concurrency instead of letting the OS do it. Green processes. I've never heard them called green, but
Go, Haskell, Lua, PHP, Ruby, Racket, Rust.
What runs on Android flawlessly? Crystal does? Oh, you just got Booster running on Android. Didn't you just get your Android test device today, Paul? And you already got it running? It's the beauty of Unity, man. We should all just be writing in Unity, Sean.
Oh, God.
Just pushing pixels to the screen. 60 FPS.
I'd play right now, but my phone is the camera.
That's awesome, Paul.
Which reminds me,
I had a customer email or send in a ticket a couple weeks ago. They for RHR we have to have like a native helper app that's Electron. If a user wants to use their own hardware, because that's the only way we can get at the hardware, right? Can't get at it through the browser. And it's Electron app that I built for Mac and Windows. And the guy was like, "Hey, I've got a Linux computer. I use Ubuntu. Can you build it for Linux?" And I'm like, "Should be easy. It's just Electron, right?" So I spent an hour today firing up a Ubuntu VM, cloning down my repo, installing npm. Did just build, like it did just work, but then I realized that I had this native little helper app that talks to serial devices that sits between Electron and the hardware, and that's not cross-platform at all. That's written in Swift on the Mac and it's written in C# on Windows. And I'm like, this is too much work to implement for one guy using one piece of outdated hardware. Like, just like, I'm sorry, we can't support this, which sucks to say, but like, there's nothing. I'm only one person. Can't support friggin' Ubuntu now. So.
Welcome, Meat and Cheese 24. Chrome HID support. Oh yeah, so Greg is asking like, what does the future look for RHR then?
Oh, with work stuff, yeah. That's a great question. I don't have a great plan for it right now, other than I'm just gonna start time boxing a lot more heavily, and have to prioritize things that just prioritize completely differently. Spend time on stability and quality of life, and stuff that's not going to break. Not adding things that could break.
Right.
That's the goal. I'll probably just end up
structure more or less.
Yeah, and I have to be around for meetings and stuff I don't know how it's going to work with this, day to day. So I'll probably just catch up with stuff in the morning, catch up stuff in the evening, and then so that way I still have the overlapping hours with everyone else. And then I don't know, Fridays will be whatever. I'm not sure yet. But
because
Archer's not going anywhere. That was the plan. Like Archer is fine.
similar to DK, it's still doing its thing, still making money. I still transfer money at the end of every week.
Yeah.
To the bank account.
And now all our payments all in Braintree, and that's been working flawlessly. So like, it literally just sits there collecting money, just pretty sweet.
This is pretty crazy. So, I believe in the next few weeks, Side Door is going to pass the total volume that they did of all of last year.
In 3 months.
Yep.
That's awesome.
And she said that they're like a month or two away from being financially independent from the parent company.
Wow.
Which is pretty wild.
So Paul, to answer your question, I did think about that. I think that's probably the right solution. I guess it is already in C#. I didn't think about that. But I was considering something like that. Either something Rust or maybe Mono. Either way, it's still not worth the effort because I still have to do a lot of work to get that working, and so it's just not worth it. But that would be the path forward if I really had to. If I have to touch it again for some reason, I will probably do that. Braintree over Stripe? No. I would no, I would not recommend that. The only reason we use Braintree is because they had really nice native PayPal support, and half of our customers are on PayPal, and we didn't want to upset anyone. That's the only reason we use them. They're lacking tons of features that Stripe has. You can tell they're catching up. They're making it better all the time, but it's not at all the same. So I would definitely use Stripe if you can afford to just take credit cards. Yeah, definitely. The rates for us are the same. The 2.9% plus 30 cents. That's the regular. It's the same rate as far as I know in terms of their cut. And Braintree's been totally fine for us. But again, I'm not using. We're using the most basic features. We're collecting. We have customers and we have payment methods. We're not using subscriptions. We're not using any of the other stuff. We're not even using the Apple Pay or anything. We'd love to add that, but just for straight up, integrating their little forms into our UI and managing that, it's fine. Yeah, 2.2 on Braintree. Wow. I don't know if we have enough volume enough revenue to negotiate those kind of rates. But I didn't even think that was an option, but that would definitely be interesting. Also, I probably don't really care. Like, it's fine. But that could make a big difference if you take a lot of volume. I did play with Expo a little bit, Anthony, when I was messing around with whatever that tech was. I'm totally blanking. What was the Expo thing? But I was immediately kind of turned off to that as a platform for pushing things out. I just had was it React Native? It wasn't native though.
A little hard to get. I like that.
Expo's React Native. Okay. But yeah, I had like parse flashing before my eyes, and how that just went away and left me high and dry. And I just saw the same thing happening with Expo. Just didn't want to build an app all completely dependent on that
Were
platform.
you using Parse?
I was using them just for push notifications, yeah, because I didn't know how easy it was to do them myself.
Right.
Yeah. That's right, Greg. Yeah, that's still the case. If you want to use native plugins, you have to eject out and well, I forget exactly. I think, yeah, I'm pretty sure you can't use Expo with because of the way they deploy stuff, I think. This cat, man. What?
What's the main thing that you like about it, Thomas? Not necessarily. It doesn't have to be like in contrast to Vue or anything, but
Go, get down.
everything is a function. Rockwell's too busy fighting with the cat back there.
Yeah, tons of people will pay you to do React.
That's right.
That's
Yeah.
the truth.
Yeah, that's why like people still message me asking me like, what should I do, JavaScript and like how else would I get into the industry? I guess I'm like, well, React is huge,
Ow.
so
No bite.
yeah, they're both good. They're both good. If your sole goal is to get a job, though, like you could do it with Vue, but it's easier to do in React, I think, just based off of volume. I like Vue a lot. Have you been using it for a while, Meat and Cheese?
Yeah, Sean turned me on to Vue, and I just love it. Just love it.
Start searching for Vue jobs. All right, I like Vue. I really like Vue a lot.
Gotta pump those numbers up.
I used it from like pre 1.0 all the way to just before 3 launched.
I gotta get rid of this. Jess, can you call him? Thank you. Dick. Thomas's new project, React and Python Azure Functions. You get some kind of cut on those functions, Thomas? You get a percentage? Is that what you're trying to get us to use this?
Python Azure Functions, nice.
A royalty?
My story arc. There's still time for me, Matt.
Give it long enough and writing monoliths will be cool again. Just keep doing it long enough and keep getting paid to do it, and then you'll get paid a lot to do it. And it'll be fine. Could we write an entire web application using just Postgres and just using like Postgres views that render HTML?
Yeah, I mean, there's Postgres. There's
No, I'm just talking about like just opening up like port 5432 and just like.
My God.
SQL on Rails. You could do it.
It makes me feel a little strange.
Not safe for work. Were you guys just talking about Greg?
Solidus, do it.
We were just talking about Greg. Shire. This is embarrassing. Shire. Yeah, he's right. He's right below you in the chat there, Meat and Cheese. Thomas summoned everyone.
Solidus looks really nice. I have not seen this.
Solidus. Shire, like the Shire. Got it. Fellow SCH brethren.
So I mean, if I were doing DK over again, yoink this.
Build, customize, and scale your store with no limits or license fees.
I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. I mean, most of it's like pretty standard e-commerce. There's just like 5% of it or whatever that's not standard e-commerce. But you could bolt on services for that. Here we go again.
This is episode. We're hit record. Let's go. We can bang out next week's episode right now.
I mean, I got to do maintenance on DK soon anyway because I could upgrade Postgres and probably do a checkup and things like that.
Postgres is a thing, I think.
Yeah, it is.
I think that's been coined. Paul's over there in his own world, flying off into space.
Perfecting his orbital mechanic skills.
Mm-hmm.
Hasn't been available yet. Hey man, Laravel's nice. What is this all about?
I gotta get a cool green screen. What are those lines? Is that in the picture? Those white lines?
Yeah, it's air. You can see like the wind direction. So
because it's a screenshot.
You have to hunt for food and stuff. So you have to be aware of like your upwind or downwind of whatever you're trying to hunt and stuff like that.
Oh, interesting.
Or they'll smell you.
Oh, they'll smell me all right. Everyone's getting together to do hack sessions. I'm just getting caught up on the blacklist. Making me feel unproductive.
What's that?
The James Spader crappy crime drama TV show.
Do we need voice channels in the Discord for programming?
I don't know. I mean, people just use the lobbies, right?
Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah. Where do you have so many channels, I feel like?
Go in Enterprise with Slack, with the Discord, rather.
I wish Discord would let you do the thing like Slack where you could... Maybe it does do this. If you hide... I want it to only... Whoops. I want it to only show me channels that have like unread messages. And otherwise hide them. Because there's just too many channels to scroll. Yeah.
Is there a way to do that?
No. Chad, help me out. I collapsed all the channels, so go post something in like Programming 1 or something. See if it pops up. I'm looking at Easter Bunny. Okay, it did show up. Okay, so I just got to keep these things collapsed. All right.
Today I learned.
You're still good.
Done.
Marquez won't fix, or Marquez. What's the tag for something that's already done? Like a solved by issue, whatever. Cool. We all learned something today, Paul. Anthony, I see you jumped on the cool people have cartoons as their avatars bandwagon. I really love that tweet that you sent out, Anthony, the other day, mentioning all the people with cartoon avatars on Twitter. That was so funny. Mine was from Jess's mother likes to do painting and watercolors and drawing, and so she made us a little booklet about us for I don't remember, our anniversary or something, and she like used different pictures of us as references for like, going through a relationship or whatever. And that one picture was us at Jess's sister's wedding, where we all dressed up everyone independently, like we got these big cartoon like onesies, like fleece, characters, and then during the reception we all came out and we had like a Totoro, I was Pikachu, there was a Easter bunny, like a full-on Easter bunny with like a head. It was so much fun. Anyway, so that's where that came from. The Pikachu onesie. Meanwhile, my other avatars are from pictures of me from like 10 years ago. I can see it in your eyes, Sean.
Trying to figure out.
You're looking lustfully at some new technology.
No, I'm trying to read a stack trace. NPM stack trace.
Python stack.
Cannot find module string.prototype.pad end. What are you talking about?
Oh no, did someone take pad end down?
No, I don't know what's going on. I'm using this npm run all.
You're looking at this is your app.
Yeah.
Does it have a name, by the way?
Message base.
Message base. What's the Outlook format? Is it the mbox file?
MSG.msg.
MSG, okay. npm run all.
Adds umami flavor. Yeah, I can make the icon a salt shaker. Something. But why are you just not working? Module not found. What do you mean?
Oh, MSG. I gotcha. I get it. You missing a dep? Pad end is not a normal JavaScript thing, right?
I believe it was like polyfilled or like shimmed in this project. If you search for string.prototype.pad end, there's a lot of. I didn't look at all the.
It is on MDN. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's getting late here. That's the one true way, Greg. It's the only way.
Yeah, I'm literally doing that right now.
Actually, you know what? Better thing, just do the first one and then just don't do the second one. Just leave.
Should leave my whole career.
Greg, I don't know if you listened to last week's episode, but yet. But I played around with Ionic a little bit. It's pretty cool. And by the way, Greg, I think they fixed from what I've seen. I think they fixed your issue you had where the scroll bar handle nubbin. I don't know the terminology. I remember you were saying where how it like goes underneath the navigation bar at the top, and I was playing around with it, and I don't think it does that anymore. At least the views that I was doing that had regular.
That's so funny.
Had regular. I wasn't doing anything fancy. That's awesome, Greg. Do I have it on here? Nope, that's the Swift one. Oh, transparent nav bar. Oh, okay. Right, because the content view or whatever it's called has to go up underneath it. Right. No, but I'm pretty sure I... Maybe update on it and see if it still does it. Because I'm pretty sure I remember not seeing that. Don't quote me on it. I'm actually might ping you, Greg, at some point because I have some questions about how I would do things like, for example, the tablet view. I love all the selectors that Ionic gives you for saying is tablet, is Android, is desktop. Like they have basically every Boolean flag you could possibly want. And I'm trying to have a hard time mentally figuring out where I would how I would lay out, like, okay, is it a tablet? Yes, do this, master detail view, versus is it a phone? Just give me the tabbed view. And I'm trying to figure out where that switch goes, right, in each view, in each page or whatever. Anyway, I could spend some more time to figure it out, or I could just bother you. So maybe I'll bother you offline at some point. Oh, capacitor. Oh, capacitor works for all platforms. Okay, I was under the impression it was just like an iOS UI web view thing. Responsive layouts. Okay, yeah. Oh, I didn't even think about that. Okay, I'll see what it comes with out of the box. That's probably the way to go then. Of course they would have that. I don't know. I didn't even think to look. Nuking node modules seems to have fixed it, huh, Sean?
There's a different issue. I don't really know what's going on. Different computer. Rip Cordova. Yeah, good riddance. It worked okay for me, but yeah, it was just okay.
What was Cordova?
It allowed you to I'm sorry if I'm offended you. It's like a predecessor of, well, not really a predecessor, but similar to capacitor.
But I still don't even really understand
Apache
what it does. What it is? Is it a browser? Is it a JavaScript layer? Like what? Is it a tool chain? I don't
Drop in the link.
People just talk about it. Oh, it's Apache Cordova. Target multiple blah blah blah. Okay. Okay, so this is just what under the hood what makes this whole thing possible. Why did Ionic leave this by the wayside? Do we know? Apache gave up. Thank you. Paul's always thinking on the same level that I am. It's a fancy web view. Got it. That's the answer I think I was looking for. Wow, Matt, coming in with a fire. It did seem like a lot of Ionic plugins for things were still only Cordova, or like thin wrappers around Cordova things for Ionic. That didn't give me the warm fuzzies. Because it seemed like someone developed them and then they just did the minimal amount of work to get it working on the new thing. I don't know. Yeah, that's right. Just exactly what Greg said there. Yeah. Flash needs an update. I have a bunch of old SWF, Flash animations that I made over the years, and my mom actually went through and ran them in the native Flash player and converted them all to MP4s. Just so we have them. It's pretty nice. Some fun old animations did back in the day. School project where we had to reimagine Dante's Inferno in like our own way. So I made a Flash cartoon about the 9 circles of driving hell or something. And it was all like people who committed driving sins, like driving slow in the left lane, or drunk driving, or playing loud music.
Perfect for Dante's Inferno.
Split panes. Ion split pane. Yes. I think. Yes, this is truly responsive. I was looking for more of, like, if it's desktop or tablet, do the split, and if it's phone, don't do the split. But maybe this is the right thing to do. Just make it just plain old responsive by width and call it a day. But I guess where I get hung up is that, like, the two... This makes sense, but I guess I don't understand, like, where do I put the root that decides... what am I trying to say? Let me read these docs here. Hold on. Oh, I see. This puts just the menu as like a little slide over. Maybe that's actually what I want. Can we get a block there, someone in the chat?
Working on it. Ban.
Yeah, Greg, that's what I'm thinking of. Okay. Bye, Thomas. Good chat today. Thanks for coming by. Good luck with your hacking. Cool. Thanks for coming by, Meat and Cheese. Making me hungry.
Yeah, welcome.
We're doing this every Thursday at the same time,
and like we mentioned too, we have got a Discord. Most of the people that have been chatting here are in the Discord hanging out as well. So you're always welcome to check that out too.
So is it just a coincidence that you came by and Greg came by because Greg's not always here? This all just kind of happened. It's pretty funny. Greg was on with us a few weeks ago. If you want to check out dnc.show, we've got an episode on there with him talking about I don't know, life, the universe, and everything. View all episodes. 258. Oh. Yeah. He is doing cool stuff.
Yeah, he's always doing cool stuff.
Thomas does keep pulling us together. He actually just connected us with another person to bring on the show at some point. So that's how many now in the pipe? We got 4 people in the works now. I'm glad we're doing this. Like, I'm really glad we're making the effort to have more people on, because I think it breaks things up, and I think it gives us some nice perspectives and is more interesting. I think it's more interesting. I can only listen to myself talk for so long.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Update on this thing. It seems to be a peer dependency issue, so fixing that.
Oh.
Fun. Yeah, so we're working on getting some guests in. So I've been DMing a couple of people on Twitter. We're looking at getting another book author on. So more content.
Yeah, thanks Anthony. I like that we can do that too. I think because we don't feel, I have a problem. My God, it's being really pain. We try to have some structure to the show, but sometimes it just works out better not having structure, because then we don't have nothing's holding us back from taking those deep dives and like going down all the different forks and distractions and thinking about things. So I don't think that part of the show is going to change anytime soon. I mean, it really hasn't changed since day one, right? The basic format. Ow.
Bucky's getting wild.
He's just biting. Ow, ow.
All right, man. I'll let you
Yeah.
get out of here. I'm probably gonna go chill for a little bit before getting back in to the codes.
Cool. Don't work too hard.
Well, I got tomorrow off, the 3-day weekend, so
Nice. Get outside, man.
I'll get to chill. I'm outside every day now.
Good.
Yeah, I don't know if you can tell my tan complexion.
Well, you're outside right now, it looks like.
I mean, hold on, let me crank this sucker up.
Can you get the... I was going to... There you go.
There we go.
Can you get Can you get your key lights to match the colors of the background? Like, can you get the blue and the orange? There's the orange. That's perfect. Can you get a blue over here?
That's what blue as it gets.
That's awesome. No, that's perfect. Oh
They're
my
so
god,
bright.
it's so good. Like squinting.
There, now they're all the way up.
You look like you're in like a tanning booth. Like you're just being sweated out.
I felt kind of like it. I'll set these later.
All right, man.
All right. Well, see everybody. See you next week.
All right, have a good
Or
night.
Discord, either way.
Thanks for coming by, everyone. This is really fun. You guys are the best.